All things move, yet the fear within us often remains still, like a shadow before dawn. Men and women give this fear a noble name, they call it love, but often it is nothing more than a refusal to sit alone with the silence of their own soul. The hardest chains are not the ones placed upon us, but the ones we clasp around our own wrists. They glitter, they shine, they arrive disguised as romance, comfort, or stability. Yet beneath their polish, there is weight. You know this already. You have seen people dissolve piece by piece, exchanging their strength for a fragile embrace, offering their days to another simply because they could not endure the solitude of night. What is such a life, if not a quiet death? Marcus Aurelius once whispered to himself, "Do not fear death. Fear never beginning to live." And indeed, many never begin, for they cannot abide being single. They rush to fill the void, to cover the silence, and in doing so, they abandon their own birthright to live freely. But solitude is not a curse. It is a gift, if you will learn to hold it with steady hands. To stand alone is not to be empty. It is to be whole, to discover that love is only true when it springs from freedom, not from need. Therefore, let us turn to 10 truths. 10 lights in the darkness that reveal why singleness, far from being a burden, may be the strongest foundation of your life. The first of these lights is clarity. The power to avoid binding yourself to the wrong soul, to walk unchained, and to guard the path of your spirit against attachments that corrupt rather than nourish. The shield against wrong attachments. Not every storm comes with thunder. Some approach in silence, carrying the sweetness of comfort, the warmth of attention, the promise of companionship. Yet within that gentle touch, there may be the seed of ruin. A wrong bond does not always announce itself with cruelty. Often it arrives clothed in tenderness. But its weight is no less heavy and its damage no less deep. To tie yourself to the wrong person is not merely to lose days or months, it is to lose fragments of your very self. For slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to bend. You overlook what once seemed clear. You excuse what once seemed intolerable. You silence your inner voice only to keep another voice near. This is how the soul is eroded, not in one grand collapse, but grain by grain, until the mirror no longer shows the person you once knew. The Stoics taught that freedom is the highest good, not the false freedom of doing whatever passion demands, but the true freedom of belonging to yourself. If you are desperate to avoid solitude, you do not see clearly. Need blinds. Hunger accepts whatever bread is offered, no matter how bitter. But when you stand content within your own solitude, the fog lifts. You begin to perceive who brings peace and who brings storms, who respects your boundaries, and who only seeks to trespass them. It is better to remain alone with your dignity than to surrender it in exchange for company that corrodes your spirit. The one who cannot endure solitude will leap at the first outstretched hand, mistaking it for salvation. The one who can stand in silence will wait, will see, will discern. And from that patience arises the greatest protection. To remain single is to hold a shield. With it, you may say no to manipulation, no to false affection, no to the slow decay of your soul. You need not justify why you do not answer, why you walk away, why you guard your time. You belong first to yourself, and in that belonging lies strength. Consider how many have lost years, not because of tragedy or fate, but because they yoked themselves to the wrong companion. How many have abandoned their path, dimmed their fire, neglected their gifts, all to remain chained to someone whose presence was poison. The truth is harsh, yet liberating one wrong bond can do more harm than 1,000 lonely nights. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Yet the quality of your thoughts is shaped by the company you keep. A polluted spring cannot yield clear water. A corrupted bond cannot nurture a clear mind. To protect your solitude, then, is to protect your clarity, your future, your very life. Every day spent unattached to the wrong person is not a day of loss. It is a day of preservation. It is the saving of years that would otherwise be consumed by battles not your own. And should a worthy soul arrive in time, you will meet them not from hunger, but from fullness, not with desperation, but with discernment. Therefore, do not mourn your solitude. See it instead as a shield polished and strong, guarding your heart and path. For it is better to walk alone in freedom than to lie chained beside the wrong companion. Full freedom over time. The river of life does not halt for anyone. Each dawn spills its golden light. Each dusk draws its quiet veil, and in between these moments, we are entrusted with hours that can never be reclaimed. Time once given away is gone as surely as a bird that has flown beyond the horizon. The Stoics regarded time as the most precious of possessions. Wealth may return, honor may rise and fall, but no man can restore a wasted day. Seneca wrote with sharpness, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Reflect upon that truth. How much of your life has been surrendered not to the greatness of a task or the nobility of service, but to the constant quarrels, to the appeasing of moods, to the endless explanations demanded by another? A wrong bond does not only corrupt your heart, it steals your hours. Your mornings are reshaped by someone's unrest. Your evenings are sacrificed to soothe their storms. What you could have given to your craft, to your studies, to your inner strength, dissolves into smoke. Slowly, you find that your life is no longer your own. It has been bartered away minute by minute for peace that never arrives. But when you are alone, time returns to you. The dawn is yours to shape. The night is yours to command. You may linger with a thought until it blossoms into vision, or pursue a labor until it yields fruit. No voice interrupts your silence, no hand pulls you from your path. You live as the river flows by its own course, not by the channels another has carved. Freedom over time is not merely leisure, it is power. It is the ability to build without ceasing to grow, without hindrance, to walk toward your destiny with undivided steps. A year of solitude devoted to your own becoming can outshine 10 years squandered in the service of someone else's chaos. Every hour invested in the shaping of your body, the sharpening of your mind, the cultivation of your spirit compounds like interest. It grows upon itself until the person you were is far behind, and the person you have become stands unshakable. Think of how easily hours are lost in the company of one who does not honor them, arguments circling like vultures, false reconciliations that mask new conflicts, waiting in silence for appreciation that never arrives. Those hours do not return. They are ashes scattered on the wind. But when you walk alone, your hours remain whole. You may give them to what is enduring, to wisdom, to discipline, to vision. You may turn them toward the cultivation of your own soul, so that when fate brings trials, you stand ready, not depleted. Ask yourself, how many days have you already surrendered to those who did not value them? How many nights have you spent in sorrow that bore no fruit? How many mornings began not with clarity, but with exhaustion from battles that were never yours to fight? Singleness restores what was stolen. It reminds you that your time belongs first to you and to the purposes for which you were born. Once you have tasted that freedom, you will not squander it again. You will recognize who honors your time and who devours it. And you will walk away without hesitation from any who try to chain the river of your life to their own restless shore. Guard your time as you would guard a sacred fire. For once the flame is gone, there is no rekindling. Third, self-mastery. Without distractions. A man cannot govern a city if he cannot first govern himself. And you cannot command yourself if your days are ruled by noise that is not your own. Relationships can be beautiful, but they are also loud, constant check-ins, endless questions, shifting moods that pull you into tides, not of your making. Slowly, you forget the sound of your own voice, drowned by the clamor of another. The Stoics taught that the highest freedom is self-mastery. Epictetus declared, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To master yourself is to hold the reins of your mind and body, not allowing them to gallop wildly in every direction. But such mastery requires solitude. For in solitude, the battlefield is cleared. The only opponent left is you. Consider the mornings wasted in quarrels, the nights consumed by attempts to mend another's broken piece. Those are hours stolen from your discipline, your study, your training. When you remain single, you reclaim that silence. And in silence, the true work begins. You rise not because someone calls you, but because you have called yourself. You train your body not to impress another, but to build a fortress of strength. You sharpen your mind with words of wisdom, not to prove cleverness, but to see clearly. You practice restraint not because a partner demands it, but because you refuse to be a slave to desire. Each habit formed in solitude is a brick laid in the citadel of the soul. Self-mastery is not only of the body, but of the emotions. Alone, you are forced to confront the storm within. There is no one to distract you when sorrow rises, no hand to blame when anger flares. You sit with yourself, your doubts, your fears, your secret longings. At first, this feels like torment, but in truth, it is training. The flame of anger becomes a lesson in patience. The weight of sadness becomes a lesson in resilience. The itch of desire becomes a lesson in discipline. What seemed like enemies are in fact teachers forging your inner strength, like iron hammered in fire. Many flee this training ground. They run into the arms of another hoping to be saved from the encounter with themselves. But such escape brings no freedom. It only postpones the battle. For the moment of testing will come in the arguments, in the disappointments, in the trials of life, and if you are untrained, you will break. But if you have mastered yourself in solitude, no storm can shake you. You will stand as a tree rooted deep, bending but not breaking, while others are torn from the earth. There is also a joy in this path. For discipline is not only hardship, it is also delight. When you keep a promise to yourself, your heart grows lighter. When you train consistently, your body becomes a vessel of strength. When you study faithfully, your mind shines with clarity. Each small victory builds confidence, and confidence is the fragrance of freedom. Remember, this slavery is not only chains of iron, but also the unseen chains of distraction. Many waste their lives not because they lacked time, but because they surrendered their energy to endless drama. To live half asleep, answering to moods not your own, is a subtle form of bondage. But to live awake, governing yourself with steady hands, is true liberty. Therefore, do not despise the silence of your single season. It is the training ground of your soul. It is where you discover what you are capable of when no one else is watching. It is where you learn to fall and rise, to falter and begin again, to command yourself with patience and strength. This is mastery, not perfection, but progress made in solitude. And once this mastery is forged, it cannot be stolen. A relationship may end, a fortune may vanish, health may falter, but the habits of strength remain. They are yours, carried like hidden treasure wherever you go. So treat your solitude not as emptiness, but as a forge. Enter it with courage, endure its heat, and emerge as one who no longer needs to be carried because you have learned to carry yourself. IV. Protecting your energy from toxic people. Nothing in life is more precious than the quiet fire within you. It is the source of your focus, your clarity, your joy. Without it, even great opportunities turn to dust in your hands. With it, even small tasks glow with purpose. Yet how often do we give this flame away, not to noble causes or sacred duties, but to the endless drain of toxic company? The ancients warned that your soul is shaped by the company you keep. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and what molds your thoughts more swiftly than the presence of another. If you bind yourself to someone steeped in chaos, your mind will drink that poison drop by drop until your own thoughts grow restless and clouded." The tragedy is that toxicity rarely arrives wearing a mask of malice. More often it comes clothed as love, comfort, or companionship. At first you excuse the sharp words, the sudden storms, the quiet manipulations. You call them just moods or just stress. But deep inside you feel it, the weight pressing upon you, the exhaustion creeping in. Every step becomes heavier, every day begins with dread. That is not love, it is the slow death of your spirit. To remain single is to shield your flame. Alone, no voice demands that you walk on eggshells. No hand tugs you from your path. No shadow lingers to steal your rest. You wake in the morning with clarity instead of dread, and you end the day in silence instead of turmoil. The air around you is clean. The energy within you remains whole. Protecting your energy is not selfishness. It is wisdom. For once your fire is drained, you cannot offer light to anyone, not to yourself, not to others, not to the world. What appears like self-sacrifice in toxic company is in truth self-destruction. You pour yourself out into a bottomless vessel and nothing of value remains. The discipline of solitude teaches you a rare art, the power of saying no. No to manipulation, no to control, no to the subtle theft of your peace. At first this feels sharp, even cruel. But in time you realize that true kindness cannot grow in poisoned soil. To walk away is not cruelty, it is preservation. You are preserving your fire so that it may warm those who deserve it, rather than letting it be smothered by those who do not. Think of the power of a clean morning, no quarrels waiting for you at dawn, no accusations hiding in the shadows of the day, no endless cycles of apology and reconciliation. Just silence, just breath, just the space to live as you choose. This is the soil where growth takes root. This is the air where dreams breathe freely. When you have known peace, you will no longer tolerate chains. Once you have felt the strength of undisturbed energy, you will refuse to let another pollute it. That is why singleness is not emptiness, but a fortress. It allows you to guard your inner flame like a warrior at the gates, refusing entry to those who carry only smoke and ash. Remember, the greatest theft is not of wealth or possessions, but of spirit. And the thieves are often those who claim to love you. By staying single until you see clearly, you protect yourself from this quiet robbery. You keep your energy intact, your focus sharp, your heart unburdened. Better to walk alone with your flame burning steady than to lie beside someone who smothers it night after night. For when the flame dies, all else fades. But if it is guarded, it will light your path through any darkness. V. Learning to love your own company. There is a silence that unsettles many souls. When the voices fade, when no footsteps echo in the hallway, when only the whisper of one's own breath remains, It feels heavy, almost unbearable. Most flee from it. They reach for distraction, for noise, for anyone who can fill the emptiness. But fleeing does not cure the ache. It only hides it for a moment. The truth is simple and hard. If you cannot endure your own presence, no companion will ever fill that void. For no matter how many sit across the table, the silence within will return. To remain single is to face this silence and to make peace with it. At first it may roar. Every flaw, every doubt, every hidden fear rises up in the stillness. You see yourself stripped bare, the masks removed, the excuses gone. This is why so many refuse solitude. The mirror it holds is merciless. Yet if you endure, if you sit patiently with your own soul, the terror fades. Slowly, what once felt like a burden becomes a companion. You discover strengths you had forgotten, dreams you had neglected, values that had been drowned by the voices of others. You realize that the person within, though flawed and unfinished, is worthy of respect, and in time, even of love. Carl Jung observed, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." Loneliness is not the absence of others. It is the absence of connection with yourself. Once you can speak honestly to your own soul, once you can sit in silence and feel at home, you are never truly alone again. Think of the transformation. A walk that once felt empty becomes serene. A meal eaten in solitude becomes freedom instead of punishment. An evening without company becomes a garden where thoughts can bloom. Life itself shifts, not because the outer world has changed, but because you have reconciled with your inner world. And here lies a paradox. The more you cherish your own company, the less you cling to others. You no longer beg for attention, no longer settle for half-hearted affection, no longer twist yourself into shapes to keep someone near. Why should you? You already carry fullness within. Relationships then become not crutches, but gifts chosen freely, not seized desperately. The Stoics knew this truth well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. What is happiness but the ability to sit quietly with oneself and feel whole? What is freedom but the knowledge that your worth is not dependent on another's gaze? To love your own company is to walk through life with an unshakable companion. You are with yourself from the first breath to the last. If that relationship is broken, all others will falter. But if that bond is healed, you carry a constant source of strength. So let the silence teach you. Sit with it until its edges soften. Walk with it until it feels like a cloak instead of a chain. Look into the mirror until the reflection no longer feels like a stranger but a friend. For once you have learned to love your own company, you will never again fear solitude. You will no longer rush to escape it. And when love arrives, true love born of freedom, you will greet it not as one seeking completion, but as one already complete. This is the quiet power of singleness. It teaches you that you are enough. And from that strength, every other bond you form will grow healthier, freer, more true. VIII. Escaping the trap of validation. The hunger for approval is among the most subtle chains a soul can wear. It does not clang like iron nor cut like rope. Instead, it whispers. It tempts you to shape your words so they may please, to bend your dreams, so they may be accepted, to wear masks so that others may nod with approval. It is a quiet slavery, and it is everywhere. You know this hunger. It begins innocently, the desire for a kind word, a glance of recognition, the comfort of being told you are enough. Yet once you drink of it, the thirst only grows. A single compliment satisfies for an hour, then vanishes like mist, leaving you reaching for more. The applause of others becomes a drug, and like all drugs, it leaves you weaker each time it fades. Epictetus offered a sharp warning. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, for as long as your peace depends on what others think, you will never be free. A single frown will shatter your calm. A single silence will plunge you into doubt. To chase validation is to hand the keys of your soul to every passerby. But when you remain single, you are granted a rare chance, the chance to stand without an audience. Alone you cannot perform for another's gaze, for there is no gaze. You must learn to live in your own sight, to build a life that pleases your conscience, even if no one else notices. This is the beginning of true strength. It is not easy. There will be evenings when you long for affirmation, when silence feels like rejection, when you ache to hear you matter. But if you endure, if you resist the urge to beg for echoes, something shifts within you. You begin to hear a deeper voice, your own. It speaks not in flattery, but in truth. It reminds you of the promises you kept, the courage you showed, the discipline you honored. And slowly you learn to rest upon that voice. Consider the freedom of such a state to act not because it will be praised, but because it is right. To speak not because it will be applauded, but because it is true. To walk a path not because it is admired, but because it is yours. This is authenticity, and authenticity is strength. There is another paradox here. When you no longer seek validation, when you stand quietly content in your own worth, others are drawn to you. Confidence is magnetic. Independence shines. People sense the difference between one who demands their approval and one who does not need it. And though respect may come, you no longer rely upon it. Their praise is a gift, not your oxygen. Singleness, then, is a teacher. It strips away the easy supply of validation, leaving you to discover the deeper source within. It teaches you to look in the mirror and say, I am enough even now, even without applause. This lesson is not learned in comfort. It is learned in silence, in the lonely nights, in the restless hours when you wonder if you are invisible. But those nights are not wasted. They are the very forge where freedom is hammered. To live for approval is to live in chains. To live without it is to live like the mountain rooted, unmoved, serene in its own being, whether clouds gather or sunlight shines. Therefore, let your singleness be the season in which you break this addiction. Let it be the time when you train yourself to draw strength from the well within, so that when the world's voices rise and fall, you remain steady. For the one who no longer begs for validation is the one who is finally free to live. VII. Growing stronger in solitude. Many fear the word solitude as though it were a sentence, a barren exile, a shadowed void where nothing can grow. Yet solitude is not emptiness. It is training. It is the hidden school where the soul learns to endure without applause, to rise without assistance, to breathe without borrowed air. At first, solitude feels heavy. When you sit alone, the silence grows loud. Every insecurity, every unhealed wound, every buried fear rises up like smoke in a sealed room. This is why most rush to escape it. They would rather run into shallow company than face themselves. But no one can flee forever. Sooner or later, life strips away the distractions, and you are left alone with the person in the mirror. Better to meet that moment now willingly than be forced into it later unprepared. The Stoics did not see solitude as a curse, but as a sanctuary. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." To enter solitude is to enter that sanctuary. Here no false opinions intrude. Here no demands pull you from your path. Here you are free to discover what strength truly dwells within you. Strength does not grow in ease. It grows under weight. Just as the body becomes resilient when tested by iron, the soul becomes resilient when tested by silence. Alone you must learn to calm your own storms, to steady your own heart, to rise from your own despair. And each time you do, you grow stronger. The fear of being abandoned loosens its grip, for you know you can stand without support. The terror of rejection fades, for you have lived through empty nights and found you still endure. This is the paradox of solitude. The very condition people fear is the one that makes them unshakable. For the one who has proven they can survive in silence no longer trembles at the thought of loss. A companion may leave a bond, may break a season, may end, but the solitude that remains is not enemy, it is ally. Solitude also clears the mind. Freed from the constant noise of others, you begin to hear your own thoughts again. Dreams rise to the surface, no longer drowned by expectation. Desires once hidden emerge like seeds reaching for the sun. You come to see which longings are truly yours, and which were only echoes of another's will. In this clarity, your life regains its direction. There will be nights when solitude feels sharp, when you ache for another voice, when silence presses against you like cold stone. Do not despise those nights. They are the forge of resilience. Each time you endure them without breaking, you become less afraid. You learn that you do not need saving. You learn that you are capable of saving yourself. And here lies a mystery. When you have been forged in solitude, others can sense it. Independence radiates like heat. It does not beg, it does not cling, it does not demand. It simply is. People are drawn to such steadiness because it is rare. But whether they come or go, your strength remains. So do not curse your solitude. Embrace it as the gymnasium of your spirit. Enter it with reverence. Train within its walls until your soul becomes unyielding. For the one who has grown strong in solitude can walk into any crowd, any bond, any storm, and remain whole. To fear solitude is to remain fragile. To endure it is to become unbreakable. VIII. Focusing on your mission, instead of pleasing others. Every life is born with a summons. It may not be loud, it may not be clear, but deep in the marrow there is a call to build, to create, to teach, to lead, to serve. This is your mission. It is the reason you rise each morning, the thread that weaves your days into meaning. To neglect it is to betray yourself. Yet how often is this mission lost in the effort to keep another content? How many dreams lie buried, not because they were impossible, but because someone insisted they were inconvenient? How many destinies were traded away for the fragile peace of pleasing another? To live only to satisfy another's moods is not love. It is surrender. Slowly, the flame of your purpose grows dim, smothered by endless compromises, until one day you wake and find you no longer know why you exist. The Stoics urged each soul to discover and embrace its calling. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's true delight is to do the things he was made for. But this delight requires focus, and focus requires freedom. You cannot march toward your destiny if each step is slowed by the weight of constant negotiation. You cannot lift the burden of your mission if your strength is drained in pacifying another's fears. Singleness gives you this freedom. In solitude, your hours are your own, your energy undivided. You may labor late into the night without accusation, rise before dawn without complaint, devote yourself wholly to the work that calls you. No one interrupts the rhythm of your progress. No one pulls you away from the task that burns within. And know this true, missions demand sacrifice. They are not accomplished in comfort. They require long seasons of toil, of solitude, of obsession that others may never understand. The artist must spend years in obscurity. The warrior must train long before the battle. The philosopher must wrestle with silence before wisdom speaks. Such sacrifices are nearly impossible if your life is bound to someone who resents them. Consider those who have shaped history. Their seasons of greatness were often seasons of solitude. They were not distracted by the need to appease. They poured their best energy into the vision that consumed them. And though the world may have called them mad or selfish, it was in those years that their true legacy was forged. This is not to say that love and mission cannot coexist, but love must stand beside the mission, not above it. If you abandon your calling to soothe another's insecurity, both you and the bond will wither. For no heart can remain at peace when it has betrayed its deepest purpose. Therefore, treat your single season as sacred. Use it to discover what you are made for, and then to pursue it without apology. Let your labor be your devotion, your progress, your offering. Each hour poured into your mission is an hour that cannot be stolen, an hour that builds something enduring. And here lies a paradox. The more fiercely you live for your mission, the more magnetic you become. People respect the one who walks with direction, who does not bend in every wind, who radiates the strength of a life anchored in purpose. But even if no one praises you, the mirror will. You will look upon yourself and see a soul who did not betray its calling. Better to be alone and faithful to your mission than surrounded and faithless to yourself. For when your days come to their end, it will not be the approval of others that comforts you, but the knowledge that you lived the life you were summoned to live. So guard your mission as a sacred flame. Do not let it be extinguished in the restless winds of pleasing others. Walk the path marked out for you, even if it means walking alone. For the one who walks with purpose is never truly alone. 9. Developing emotional independence. There are chains more subtle than iron, and one of the heaviest is this: when your heart rises and falls with another's mood. To rely on someone else for your calm, your joy, your sense of worth is to place the very core of your being into their unsteady hands. A smile lifts you, a silence sinks you, a frown shatters your peace. This is not love, it is dependence. And dependence, however tender it may feel, is a kind of bondage. Emotional independence is the art of standing upright in the storm without leaning upon another's shoulder. It is the quiet strength of knowing you can comfort yourself when sorrow comes, steady yourself when anger flares, lift yourself when despair presses down. Without this strength, you are as fragile as a leaf tossed on the wind, beautiful perhaps, but helpless. The Stoics spoke often of self-mastery. Epictetus reminded us, no man is free who is not master of himself. To master yourself is not only to govern your habits, but also your emotions, to refuse them the power to drag you into chaos. This does not mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means becoming steady like the mountain that remains while seasons change around it. In singleness, you are given the arena in which to train. There is no constant rescuer, no immediate comforter, no one to absorb the weight of your storms. At first, this feels cruel, even unbearable. The quiet nights are heavy. The long days ache. But these are the very trials that forge resilience. Each time you face the ache without breaking, you discover a new strength. Each time you rise from the silence by your own will, you become less afraid. Consider how most people live. A single argument ruins their week. A single rejection destroys their confidence. A single unanswered message casts them into despair. Their peace is so fragile because it rests upon foundations outside themselves. But when you build within, when your calm depends on your own hand, no one can take it away. This is not to deny the pain of solitude. There will be hours when you long for a gentle word, when you wish for a hand to hold, when loneliness presses sharp against your ribs. Yet if you endure, you will find that the ache transforms. It becomes a teacher. It forces you to find resources you did not know you had. It teaches you to breathe through sorrow, to anchor yourself in truth, to create joy in the simplest things, a page of wisdom, the rhythm of breath, the warmth of sun upon your face. And here lies a paradox. Emotional independence does not make you distant. It makes you capable of deeper love. For the one who does not cling in desperation can give freely. The one who does not need another to carry their weight can walk beside them in equality. Love that comes from fullness is not grasping but overflowing. It blesses without demanding. It stays without suffocating. It gives without secretly begging for return. Singleness is the training ground for such love. It forces you to become whole in yourself so that if love comes, it comes as a gift, not as a crutch. It teaches you to stand alone so that when you stand with another, you do not fall if they depart. To depend upon another for your emotional life is to hand them your freedom. To cultivate independence is to reclaim it. And once you have tasted that freedom, you will never again settle for love that costs you your peace. Better to face the storm alone and learn to stand than to be sheltered falsely and remain weak. For when the storm passes, and storms always pass, the one who stood alone will remain steady and strong. X. Becoming whole before sharing yourself. From childhood, a whisper enters our ears, "You are incomplete. You must find another half to be whole." Songs repeat it. Stories romanticize it, even families echo it. And so we grow with the dangerous belief that we are fragments waiting to be finished by someone else. But a broken vessel does not become whole by joining with another broken vessel. It leaks. It spills. It shatters more quickly under the weight of expectation. To enter love with emptiness is to demand that another fill the void, and sooner or later the burden crushes both. The truth is, this you are already whole. Your worth is not granted by another's presence, nor your identity carved by another's love. The fountain of meaning flows from within. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." When you realize this, the old lie dissolves. You no longer search for completion outside because you discover it has always been inside. Singleness offers the time and space to see this clearly. Alone, you confront the wounds you once tried to hide. You mend what was fractured, strengthen what was weak, nurture what was neglected. Slowly, the vessel of your being is sealed. It holds. It is ready. Then, if another enters your life, they are not a patch for your cracks. They are a companion to walk beside your fullness. This changes everything. You no longer cling from fear. You no longer contort yourself to be accepted. You no longer beg for scraps of affection. Instead, you share yourself freely because you already stand complete. Love becomes a gift, not a transaction. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means integrity. It means no part of you is missing, even if some parts are scarred. And scars themselves are proof of healing. To be whole is not to be unbroken, but to be unshaken. There is also a paradox here. When you no longer need someone to complete you, you are finally ready to love deeply. For only then can love be pure, not born of desperation, but of freedom. Two whole souls walking together do not fuse into one out of lack. They walk side by side out of abundance. Therefore, do not rush to escape your solitude. Use it as the season to become whole. Strengthen the vessel of your life, mend the cracks, tend the fire within. For when you are full, every bond you enter will be richer, freer, and truer. Better to arrive at love as a complete being than to stumble into it as half a self. For the one who knows they are already whole cannot be broken by absence nor enslaved by need. They can love without fear. They can walk away without despair. They can remain themselves even in union. This is the final gift of singleness, the chance to become whole before sharing yourself. And once you have claimed it, no rejection can undo you. No loneliness can define you. No loss can destroy you. Epilogue. The strength of standing alone. Do not think of singleness as exile nor as punishment from the gods. It is not a barren season, but a fertile one where unseen roots sink deep. In solitude, your soul learns what no crowded room can teach, that you are already whole, already enough, already capable of standing tall without borrowed strength. Through these 10 truths, a pattern has emerged, like constellations revealing themselves in the night sky. You have seen that solitude shields you from harmful attachments, that it returns to you the wealth of time, that it gives space for self-mastery. You have seen how it guards your energy, how it teaches you to delight in your own company, how it breaks the addiction to validation. You have seen how it forges strength in silence, how it frees you to pursue your mission, how it builds emotional independence, and how at last it allows you to become whole before you ever share yourself with another. This is not weakness, it is power. Power that does not shout, but abides. Power that does not rely on chains, but stands in freedom. The Stoics were clear the good life does not depend on the whims of fortune or the presence of companions. It depends upon the mastery of oneself, upon the clarity of one's thoughts, upon the calm of a soul that does not waver. If you can stand alone, then you can stand anywhere. In the marketplace or the battlefield, in the banquet hall or the empty room, you will remain yourself. You will no longer chase what diminishes you, nor cling to what corrupts you. You will accept only what strengthens, only what adds light to your path. So do not rush to escape solitude. Do not treat it as a gap to be filled, but as a gift to be opened. Walk into it with steady steps and let it shape you. For the one who has learned to walk alone without fear is the one who can walk with anyone without losing themselves. And now the question remains, one only you can answer: are you running from solitude, or are you growing inside it? Let that question linger. Let it echo in the chambers of your mind, for in the silence after it fades, you may find the answer that changes everything.